One of the greatest rivalries in college basketball is back. It's Indiana and it's Kentucky, but fans are asking which Hoosiers team will show up and what's wrong with the Cats.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, and it is a Locked On College crossover of Hoosiers and Kentucky. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Lance Dawe of Locked On Kentucky, and thank you so much for making us your first listen or your first watch every single day and making us the #1 sports podcasting network in the world. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Well, Lance, thank you so much for joining me and so excited for this. We've been counting down the days, the weeks, and the months for us to be able to sit down and talk Indiana and Kentucky basketball because it's been a while since the Hoosiers and the Cats have taken the floor together, but we get it coming up on Saturday, my friend.
Yeah, and I almost feel like some of the struggles that the Wildcats have, and honestly, some of the struggles that Indiana has had as well, kind of heighten the gravity around this matchup. I mean, going into it, obviously, I had really high expectations for the Cats this season, kind of fallen short of those pretty significantly, but still, this game has a lot riding on it. And then, like you mentioned, one of the biggest rivalries in all of college basketball, one of the most exciting ones for sure. So I'm pretty fired up to see what happens on Saturday.
I still don't understand, and we're going to talk about Indiana and the problems and the good things that have happened for Indiana through the first several games this year, plus what in the world is wrong with Kentucky, plus we'll make our picks and talk about the rivalry in itself. But I still don't understand how Indiana got, I don't know, snookered into a 4-game series with Kentucky and only one of them being played in Assembly Hall. Thanks, John Calipari. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's all Cal here. Only getting one game in Assembly Hall. But hey, I'm thankful. To be honest with you, with the way that Kentucky's playing right now, I do not need a road game in a hostile environment like that. I need this in Rupp. I don't even need it at a neutral site. I don't need it in Indianapolis, which is one of the worst. But honestly, if you're Indiana, thank goodness this isn't in Indianapolis because it's so hard to shoot in there. This is about as good of a spot as this could be for Kentucky heading into it. As far as where this is actually being played, shout out John Calipari for making it happen for us. Still doing great work here, despite not being in Lexington anymore.
Yeah, well, the question for Indiana, which so many people are asking, I know the Kentucky people are curious, college basketball fans are curious, and my goodness, Indiana fans are curious, is which Hoosiers team shows up on Saturday to Rupp Arena? It's a night game, ton of great basketball going on tomorrow. This one will really cap it all off. Indiana at Kentucky, not a top 25 matchup, which is kind of wild in itself, but the question is, which Hoosiers team shows up? Is it the team that so far this season has dropped 100+ points 4 times, or is it the team that lost on the road to Minnesota because they couldn't find the bottom of the bucket? I genuinely have no idea. Most of those performances have come at home, Lance, the good ones, that is, the 100-point performances, including the one you did against Penn State, thanks to Lamar Wilkerson breaking a 3-point record at Indiana, breaking an Assembly Hall scoring record. I mean, anything he threw up there, it simply fell into the bucket. He said it looked like an ocean the other night against Penn State. The problem is when you stepped outside of Assembly Hall, you've had one good performance against Marquette when that win doesn't really look as good as it did, and the games against Louisville and Minnesota were pretty terrible.
I would like to say to the University of Kentucky men's basketball staff, thank you for letting a guy like Lamar Wilkerson get away. I mean, just how could you possibly let one of the greatest shooters in college basketball clearly this season just sort of slip away to the Hoosiers? But yet they let it happen. Already 35 triples from him and Tucker so far this season for the Hoosiers. But Jacob, my listeners, I would say the Kentucky fan base is pretty ball knowledgeable. I think most of us kind of know ball. For those that don't, for the people that are watching this right now, tell me a little bit about this Indiana team with their new head coach, kind of what their philosophy is. Like you said, they've smoked a few teams so far already, dropping 100 on several different programs, most recently Penn State, who is not that great. But still, I mean, this offense is absolutely firing on all cylinders at various points so far this season.
Have you ever watched high to mid major level high school basketball?
Yes.
That's what Indiana is. They get up and down the floor. They'll play defense when they want to, and they're going to shoot the ball a lot of times. And it's so fascinating because I don't want Kentucky fans who maybe haven't watched Indiana yet this year, or maybe you've just started to watch them in preparation for this game. And I know Lance has told you a lot about them, but don't look back to what Mike Woodson was doing at Indiana. The teams that had two bigs, dumped it down low, dominated the paint, got rebounds, but could not hit a three from the outside. And if they scored more than 65 points, we threw a party in Bloomington. Don't look and think about that team, because this is the most polar opposite I've ever seen from year one to year two for any sports team in the history of forever. I mean, it's remarkable to see. Yes, it could be a flaw at times, but when it's on, it's awesome. And that's why Indiana, again, the game against Penn State the other night, 113 points in a conference game. That's not supposed to happen, and it's because they run up and down the floor, they shoot a bunch of threes. Rebounding is not good. There are not a lot of bigs on this team. Size is a major issue, and I'll be honest, the Hoosiers get very stagnant in the half court, but when they move without the basketball and they find some back cuts and off-ball screens, that's when Darren DeVries' team is at their best. Kentucky has to find a way to shut that down, to not allow them to do that. If you extend the defense and play tight one-on-one, you can stop this Indiana team, because they just don't know what to do when teams pressure them like that. Louisville did that. Minnesota did that. And Indiana lost those games. That's the difference for me right now, Lance, is this Indiana team, when they're on, they're on. But when they're not, my goodness, it's miserable to watch.
Super awesome thing about Kentucky is they don't really put a lot of pressure on ball. So that'll be fun to watch. But the two things that really do concern me about this Indiana team, and it's kind of similar to what Kentucky was doing last season, it's experience and it's 3-point shooting, right? Obviously, like you mentioned, they are spraying the three ball all over the place. 38.2% so far, getting it done from a few different guys. They're the most experienced team in the nation, according to Ken Pom. Kind of similar to Kentucky, also similarly volatile, I think, when you look at just how streaky they can be, hot and cold at different times. But the thing that separates this Indiana team, at least statistically right now, and you can explain this a little bit further, Jacob, because you've been watching a lot more Hoosier ball than I have, the thing that separates them from last year's Kentucky team is the fact that they have been playing pretty good defense, most notably at the rim, actually. One of the best 2-point defenses in America, and something that you and I have been talking about a little bit this offseason, and whenever we got on to talk as well here on Locked On. Reed Bailey, Sam Alexis, guys that you were not necessarily the highest on when it came to their defensive capabilities, but now you're seeing so far through a decent chunk of the schedule, they've been able to hold their own a little bit. Has that been true across the board, or is it just only happening against the bad teams?
A little bit of both. I mean, Indiana hasn't seen a ton of true bigs yet, and we will be humbled very quickly when we get to Big Ten play, because of teams like Michigan State and Iowa and Michigan and Purdue and Wisconsin and Illinois. I mean, those teams are going to have an absolute field day, but I would say they've been fine. Right. I think Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis have been fine defensively. I want to see them be more aggressive offensively, and I'm afraid of that coming out on Saturday against Kentucky. But defensively, I think they've been okay. Indiana tends to get a little lazy defensively with the guards, right? Reaching with the arms, not shuffling the feet to stay in front of ball handlers. And that's put Indiana in serious foul trouble, including Tucker DeVries, who I think is your second best player on the team. And so being on the road in a hostile environment with an up and down the floor type of team like Kentucky, Indiana could see those problems come out. And that's why the question really is, which Hoosiers team will show up? That's one side of the equation. The other side is, man, what's wrong with Kentucky? What are the Cats okay? We'll talk about that right after this on this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Kentucky. This Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Kentucky is brought to you by Rougiet Ready. Let's talk about something that most men simply just don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, and life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rougiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rougiet Ready combines 3 3 clinically proven ingredients and 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. And it's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, so you can feel ready. This Locked On crossover is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels a whole lot different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. I have a feeling we'll see a couple of these tomorrow night in Rupp Arena between Kentucky and Indiana. If the receiver gets hot, if a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover, we could see some turnovers tomorrow night too between Indiana and Kentucky. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment when anything like that happens. Jump on your team, on the opposing team, on a player you think is starting to get hot. All of that you can do with FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back into this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Kentucky. He is Lance Dawe of Locked On Kentucky. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. And look, we talked about Indiana, and it really is simple. If they're hitting shots, they have a chance to win the game. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But Lance, is Kentucky okay? Like, are you guys surviving over there? Because all I see on social media is that people are looking to replace Mark Pope in Lexington already. Talk to me, my friend.
Well, unfortunately, Jacob, there are people that are already asking, should he be let go? Should he be fired? And we are 10 games in to his second season, coming off of our first Sweet 16 appearance since 2019. It shows you just how genuinely bad it's gotten in Lexington for some fans to panic like that. Now, is it the most rational thing right now? Probably not. However, if you watch this team play, and this is something I've continued to say over the last couple of weeks, throw out what the computer models are saying, throw out what the stats say. Mark Pope, big analytics guy. Let's put that book to the side for a second, okay? If you're Mark Pope, watch this team play. This is a disjointed team that does not have chemistry right now. And part of it is because of injury. Part of it is because I think this is not a well-constructed roster. I'm trying to limit my words here. It's not this. I'm trying not to be overly harsh. This is not a well-constructed team. And throughout the course of the offseason, the big conversation, not just in Kentucky, but across college basketball was, Kentucky spent $22 million on their roster. They spent all of this money. Look at all of this talent that they've got. It's the deepest team in the country. They're going to have this. They're going to have this. They're going to have this. And they just have not looked the part, not even just a little bit, Jacob, at all. This has been a pathetic showing for Mark Pope and the team so far. And it's a lack of energy. It's a lack of cohesion. Sometimes it looks like the players, even in wins, just don't want to be out there. Against Gonzaga, they got down 19-2. I got to see it in person. I have never seen a crowd boo that loud before in my life. In a basketball game, I've never seen a team get booed that badly. And they deserved every single bit of it. And Mark Pope agrees, and the players agree. It is completely unacceptable the way that they have been performing. I'm not going to lie to you. Heading into the season, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what exactly the major flaws of this team could have been because of just how well balanced they were. But it's clear this team cannot shoot. They do not have a point guard to create. They cannot play consistent defense inside, despite having Malachi Marino, who I'm really excited about. They just don't know how to play ball. They're not fighting for boards. They're not fighting for each other. It's just clear that they seem uninterested in the 4 games they played that mattered. Louisville, Michigan State, Gonzaga, North Carolina. It's just sucked.
I mean, yeah, I think I would tend to agree. I haven't watched all of the games against Eastern Illinois or Loyola, those types of teams, but yeah. I did watch them play against Louisville, and that was a close loss. And that's also a Louisville team that Indiana got down 16-0 and tried to come back and didn't, which is really tough to do. I feel like the Michigan State game was the first, oh no type of moment. And then it really never got better from there. North Carolina was a tough loss that I thought Kentucky had chances to win, and then getting blown out by Gonzaga. That one hurt. But you mentioned it, the idea that Kentucky's not at 100%. Are you able to enlighten the Indiana fans who maybe haven't kept up with the injuries or just people being withheld or whatever the case may be? This Kentucky roster is not at 100%. What's the status going into Saturday as far as you know?
I want to preface this by saying, and I'm trying not to be too harsh because there are a lot of people out there that have been way more aggressive in their verbiage and how they've talked about this team.
Sure.
If Kentucky was fully healthy, I don't know how much of a difference it would make. I'm genuinely honest. Even if they were fully healthy with the way that they're playing right now, with the mental side of it, I don't know if Jaden Quaintance, if he's out there, is going to make much of a difference. I don't know if Mohamed Diabate is going to make much of a difference. Jalen Lowe, coming back from injury, has even being the only true ball handler on this team, still hasn't really made that much of a difference. I mean, he can't shoot efficiently. He's got a hurt shoulder, and he's not really creating a ton for a team that desperately needs it. So Jalen Lowe has dislocated a shoulder before the beginning of the season. Point guard, by the way, transfer from Pitt, then dislocated it in practice again after the Louisville game. He's wearing a brace, and he's just having to fight through it. He's day-to-day for the rest of the season. He's just going to have to play through it. Jaden Quaintance tore his ACL at Arizona State, had surgery. He's about 8.5 months removed from that. He should be back by SEC play. I'm kind of shocked that he's still not ready, because based on what I can tell, the kid really wants to play and the staff's holding him back, which if you've lost the only 4 games that matter so far, why wouldn't you have given it a go? Don't really quite know, but hey, I'm not a Division I head coach. The other player is Mo Diabate, high ankle sprain a few games ago. He's still going to be out for at least, I think, 2 more weeks. Maybe he comes back sooner than that. So you're down a starting power forward. You're down what's going to be your starting center, and your starting point guard, projected starting point guard heading into the season, has come off the bench in limited action, came off the bench against North Carolina Central in what I believe was a disciplinary action, because him and our power forward, Cam Williams, just didn't play until the final 13-ish minutes of that game. So yeah, Kentucky's injured. They're sad. They don't play well. It's kind of, dude, I hate for this crossover to be who's this sad Kentucky fan? But to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot positive to look forward to. It's just kind of is what it is. It's just kind of bad vibes right now. Bad vibes. I mean,
Rupp Arena, it'll still be sold out, right? I mean, they're going to show up. Indiana's coming to town. This is a rivalry renewed that we'll talk about in the final segment and talk kind of the numbers and make our predictions. But I mean, Rupp Arena is going to be popping Saturday night, right?
So it's funny, after the Gonzaga game, the big question was, okay, Kentucky's playing North Carolina Central. What's going to happen? No one was there. It was about as sparse of a crowd as we've seen in half a decade, since COVID. It was pretty bad, pretty quiet.
Hoosier fans, you hear that? Go buy your tickets right now.
If you are an Indiana fan and you are within striking distance of Lexington, driving distance, if you can get there, get a ticket and go. Because right now, this is about as down as Kentucky's going to be. If they can find a way to revive themselves later this season, get them while they're down. Because right now, boys, they are on the mat and they are struggling to get up. It is bad.
Wow. Hey, just they're not on this episode, but one of our fantastic sponsors here at Locked On, Game Time, where you should go and get all of your tickets for any sporting event you can ever imagine, or any sort of event in general. As of this recording, okay, which is Thursday evening, the cheapest ticket to get in the door to Rupp Arena for Indiana and Kentucky on Saturday night in Lexington, cheapest ticket, fees included and all, out the door in the shopping cart, $81.
That's actually lower than I thought it would be.
That is insane. $81, $82, $85. You can get a ticket in the lower bowl for less than $200 at Rupp Arena for Indiana, Kentucky Saturday night.
Jacob, when you and I were looking at this earlier this year, it was impossible to snag a ticket.
They were ridiculously expensive. And I have some buddies that are they've texted me, they're like, hey, are you going? Are you going? I was like, heck no, I'm not going. I can't afford that. And, we have different travel plans and whatever. But yeah, you can get in right now for less than $100 to Rupp Arena Saturday night.
Wow.
Isn't that insane to think about? And the way you've described this team, before we move on to our final segment, the way you've described this Kentucky team and the glimpses that I've seen them play, it's almost like it's an NBA team, right? You spend a bunch of money. They just put a bunch of talent together. They're not really orchestrated in the NBA to play together most of the time. And they're just kind of like, let's just see what happens. The biggest example of that is the Brooklyn Nets from all those years ago when they signed Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. They're like, oh, we got all these great players. We're spending $1 billion. And that team absolutely sucked.
Yeah, I'm going to get into it a little bit more probably after this game happens, kind of dive into a little bit more of like the roster construction. I think I agree with you. The problem is that Kentucky didn't moneyball their way into a really good roster. They paid up. Like they paid a hefty price, $22 million is what was reported. And they kind of got, and some people have been saying this on Twitter today, they kind of got reverse moneyballed where they overpaid for underwhelming talent. So it's just a poorly constructed roster that you spent a lot of money on. And I'll just say this and then we can move on because I will be addressing this very soon on the show. Sounds like Kentucky is not just struggling in recruiting as well. It's like becoming virtually impossible for them to land anyone because of the current NIL structure. So as bad of vibes as I've seen during the time of me doing this show, and I'm heading into season 5, this is pretty bad.
Well, regardless of how good or bad Kentucky is and how up and down Indiana can be from night to night, these two teams come together on Saturday in Rupp Arena for a rivalry that is renewed. We talk about that, plus dive into the numbers and make our picks right after this on this Locked On Crossover. Today's episode on this Locked On Crossover is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every single time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Because Aura isn't just your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. There's no app to figure it out, no setup headaches, no cussing at each other, just instant smiles with an Aura frame. You can have grandparents to give it to, or a spouse, or a sibling, or somebody in the family, somebody at work, somebody in the, somebody in the office. It doesn't matter. If you've got pictures with people and they want to look at them constantly, an Aura frame is the way to go. For a limited time, save the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. All right, final segment on this Locked On Crossover. I am Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Lance Dawe of Locked On Kentucky. Thank you so much again for being here and making us your go-to spot for all things Kentucky and Indiana news, and for making us the first listen of the day, and also making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. And if you're already living your team every day, which of course is our network motto, you can now take it up a level and you can go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club right now and you can get Locked On Hoosiers or Locked On Kentucky with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. You can go to our separate URLs. We'll have those in the comment section for you, or you can check the link down in the show notes below for all sorts of great stuff with Locked On Podcasts. All right, Lance, let's do it, my man. Let's talk Indiana and Kentucky, diving into a few more of the numbers in terms of KenPom, which is ridiculously close, net rankings, which were kind of surprising to me, and then overall make our picks for the Hoosiers and the Cats. I'll leave it up to you on which one you want to dive into first. I know we're in our final segment, so we are on somewhat of a time crunch, but where do you want to begin? Because the numbers don't lie, but my goodness, they don't tell the whole story either.
Jacob, I don't believe the numbers. The numbers are lying to me, man. After watching this team now for 10 games, these numbers are not telling the truth.
Guys I know, people. He loves the basketball numbers.
This is what I actually I'm currently with a friend in parts unknown, and I was telling him yesterday because I was talking about the team. I'm like, this is probably as poor of a misevaluation, bad of an evaluation as I have ever had. Looking at analytics and stuff heading into the season, like this is as bad of a whiff as I have ever had, like projecting stuff ever. And frankly, I think the computer models are also starting to trend in that direction. We're just in the middle of the fall. It's just snowballing. Again, hopefully this team proves me wrong and turns it around. And for anybody out there listening, by the way, that thinks I'm just some just sad, dejected Kentucky fan that's never going to pull out of his negative slump, you cannot sit here and rationalize how this team bounces back and becomes the national title contender that we expected them to be heading into this season. They're bad. They're not just bad. They're really bad. So anybody out there that thinks that, oh, everything's all sunshine and roses and we're just going to sunshine pump our way to a title, I'm sorry. The number, me, again, like you said, as like looking at these numbers, they can't be right. Kentucky can't have the 27th best offense and defense in the country. It just does not make sense with the way that they're playing.
Yeah, and that's what's so crazy, too. You speak that way, and that's the difference, right, where our two programs are. Kentucky expects and demands national championships every year. We know that, and that was the expectation going into year 2 under Mark Pope, which is a little absurd in my opinion, but I understand why, especially if you're spending $22 million on a roster. You look at Indiana in year 1 under Darren DeVries, we're like, we're good. Just make the tournament, bro. Just make the tournament. We're good. Just give us some wins and make it exciting. And he's definitely done that. And so we mentioned KenPom, and it literally couldn't get any closer between these two teams. Kentucky is ranked 20th in KenPom, and there are the Indiana Hoosiers at 21. And that's as deep of an analytical source as you can get in terms of offense, defense. There's some other ones out there. The Torvik is good as well. Net ranking is a little bit different. That one's purely based on your resume. Indiana's 22nd in the country. I don't think I totally agree with that, but it is what it is in terms of Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 wins. Kentucky is 36th. And so that will adjust a whole lot more as the season goes on. And that one, of course, adjusts with the season as well, with your wins and your losses and how those teams do the rest of the way. Kentucky, you're probably okay. Michigan State, Gonzaga, Louisville, those are pretty good teams. Indiana's kind of in the same boat too, other than Minnesota, which that was pitiful. But this will be a good game tomorrow regardless, and it will be a big win for either team. Kentucky, you say, is trending down. Indiana just depends on what side of the bed they woke up on and which way they're trending. So, Lance, your final prediction for Kentucky and Indiana tomorrow night in Rupp Arena, the biggest factor, and if Kentucky or Indiana wins.
So, in all seriousness, I'll give you a serious answer here. I think that the biggest thing for Kentucky is having the energy and the want to on defense in this game. Against Louisville, against Michigan State, they really struggled to close out tight on outside shooting. And obviously Louisville made them pay. Of course, Michigan State, who's not a great three-point shooting team, crushed them in that game from shooting beyond the arc. If Kentucky wants to have a chance in this game, they're going to have to be able to try and step up on the Hoosiers and make plays on the perimeter. They were closing out super tight on NC Central in this past game, like way more aggressive than I've seen them all season. I'd like to see that continue for a second game in a row. So I think that is the deciding factor. Does Kentucky force Indiana into bad shots, or do they make sure that they take as little open threes as possible? That is the big question for me. I don't know if Kentucky can do that and then also score enough on offense, because they are just so disjointed. It doesn't matter how big or small Indiana is. They just do not have it chemistry-wise to make enough plays in this game. It looks like to me right now, I would take Indiana in a very close game in Rupp. Wow. If I had to project who's going to win this game, but I want so badly, because I want them to win. I want to see Kentucky succeed. I want to see the Wildcats find a way to not just win this game, but to see if they can run Indiana out of the gym by halftime. I want to see it, but they just haven't put anything on the court so far to make me believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. And you hit on a lot of the points that you have to do to stop Indiana that I'm going to talk about that Indiana has to do to win this game. You got to make shots. I mean, and I'm not talking about hitting a layup here and there. I'm talking about getting hot from deep, maybe not 113 points hot like you did against Penn State. But if you drop 90 plus in Rupp Arena, you got a good chance to win the game. And you're going to have to hit some big shots. You're going to have to hit some timely shots, and you're going to have to hit some difficult shots. And I think all of that starts with with Indiana's mindset offensively, not just chucking it up from 30 feet because you did it the other night. This is not Assembly Hall. This is Rupp Arena, and there's a lot of people in there. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. If Kentucky plays halfway decent, those fans are insane, and Indiana has to move the basketball, move it around the perimeter. I want to see paint touches, man. I want to see Reed Bailey, Sam Alexis get it on the low block in that deep corner and make a move. Act like you want to score the basketball, because Kentucky will collapse, and then you pass it out, Lance, and you know that. That's open threes. Those are the open shots, and Indiana is way too good of a shooting team to give them open looks. I want to see that offensively. And defensively, can Indiana defend without fouling? You cannot win this game with Tucker DeVries sitting on the bench watching the first half. It's not going to happen. And so if you can move your feet, stay with the ball handler, communicate in a loud environment, I think Indiana has a good chance to win this game. I like them to show up. I like Darren DeVries to have the energy for this squad. I think Indiana pulls off the upset here, and it'll be a high-scoring affair. It'll come down to the wire, and I think Indiana-Kentucky, a rivalry that a lot of our listeners watched back in the day, is finally renewed. It's been too long, and Indiana, I think, pulls off the upset in Rupp. We'll see if Kentucky is able to find their footing and take down the Hoosiers as well. He is Lance Dawe of Locked On Kentucky. I am Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. Make sure you subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. Follow us on any of your audio podcasting platforms, and we look forward to a good game tomorrow night in Rupp Arena. Until next time, Hoosiers and Cats fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.